This is the Left in the Forgotten Borough podcast. I'm Andrew Savage, and Nancy is still off on her European adventure. She'll be back next week. But for right now, I am joined by Elena Arena from the Staten Island Action Coalition. Welcome back to the podcast, Elena.
Thanks, Andrew, for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here.
And Elena is our guest co-host for this episode, and I've been recently engaged in some of the activities of the Staten Island Action Coalition. You've all been such a force over the last 9 months or so. You've had your visibility brigades. You have done your Maliotakis Mondays. I'm sure, if Maliotakis had any other reason not to like a Monday, it's because she knows you're all going to be at her office. Um, and you've just overall been a really vocal force for democracy and against, the authoritarianism that's encroaching on our country. So I want to say thank you for that. And how are you doing? And how's the group doing?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm doing great in this situation where none of us are really doing great. But
Mhm.
as far as organizationally, I think SIAC is starting to make inroads into the population of Staten Island. And for that, I'm very grateful. It's not a large group of women. It's about 15 women who drive the actions. And I'll just give you an update because you've done a great job with promoting us, and I thank you for that. I've heard about it. I listened to your podcast, and I've heard you, like almost every podcast, do like a little update for us, and we're grateful for that, all of us. But for the update, we've been growing on social media with many new followers and individuals who are eager to participate in what we do, which is great. We're now part of a larger Staten Island for the People coalition, which is made up of about 11 different coalitions who are all kind of on the same page, and we support each other's actions. There's the Unitarian Church, there's the I don't have a whole list of them in front of me or in my head, but there's about 11 of us. Peace and Justice organization. But there's 11. I think there's immigration. There's 1199, a health care group. And what we've coalesced so that it makes us larger and more powerful. And in this type of political situation, what you need to do is align yourself with others of the same beliefs. You don't have to believe in everything, but you need to have the same principles and values, core values. And I think that that has helped us grow because you'll see if I make a video, it's posted on many, many different sites. So it gets to
Yeah,
audiences that are not just SIAC.
yeah.
Um,
I told
our
you.
actions
Well,
are now say
well,
again.
no, I told you your videos are like part of my morning routine. It's almost like a morning paper. I'm always like, well, let me see what Maliotakis is doing now. Let me see what Elena has to say about it. So your videos are kind of like the lore of the resistance now.
I did my first one from the car the other day. I'm trying to be Jessica Craven when she records from the car. But something came to my head and I was waiting. I had to wait outside of the dentist office for my husband. And I said, I'm going to do this video right now. So it was thrilling to actually do that. Um, but now our actions are promoted by Mobilize, and we're officially part of the National Visibility Brigade.
Oh, good.
And yeah, yeah. And we're listed on their website. So if you search your zip code will come up as being the Visibility Brigade for Staten Island. And we've also become an indivisible group, which helps us. It helps us mobilize people. It helps us advertise what we're doing, and it gets to a much larger group. Um, the group that we're attracting, we want them to be Staten Islanders or at least in New York 11, but a larger group helps us, supports us. So when the hospital union does a Meliotakis Monday, there might be some people there that are not in New York 11, but they're committed to the hospital workers and the what those people want to do. So it's important to coalesce with groups like that. These alliances just make us stronger and they advertise to a larger audience. So it's a good thing. It's a
Yeah,
good thing.
Absolutely. I've been talking about for the last couple of weeks. I saw on Nicole Wallace's podcast, I saw Rosie O'Donnell, and she came on and she said the best thing to do is just to find your community in a situation like this, is to find people who are like-minded and to plan events and even just to, just to get together and talk because, in a situation like where we are in Staten Island, we people like us and with our perspectives aren't always what's elevated. It's not always what you see, and it's not always reflected. And so I think the best thing to do is just to kind of get together with like-minded people. It's part of the reason why Nancy and I started this podcast, is so people like us have a voice here, and it's not just drowned out by MAGA. And so certainly we appreciate everything you're doing, and it's amazing that you've all become part of these bigger groups like Indivisible. And Indivisible is the driving force behind a lot of these mass mobilizations around the country, like No King's Day. And so, what does the Staten Island Action Coalition have planned for that?
Yeah, so on October 18th, we will have the last time on No King's Day, most of SIAC went to Manhattan with our shirts on, so we were one group. But this year we're doing it in Staten Island. We've many groups are joining us. We're doing a march. It'll be from Maliotakis's office up up or down, depending how you look at it, Clove Road to Victory Boulevard. And we have a lot of groups, so we're hoping to have lots of people in that march. Um, and we're hoping for success. It's at 1 o'clock we're meeting, and it'll be from 1 to 3. So people that sometimes it's really difficult to go to Manhattan, go up to 42nd Street or downtown. I think in Manhattan they're meeting. They're going from Foley Square to 14th Street, and people from 34th Street or 42nd Street down to 14th Street. So they're meeting in one place. And I always find those big things thrilling, but they're exhausting,
They are.
totally exhausting.
They are. I remember doing the one, it was in the first Trump administration. I did the Not My President's Day protest.
Right.
And that was at Trump Tower. And it was also at the Columbus Circle property as well. And so
Mhm.
that was a long day. You're absolutely right. And so
Yeah,
this was even.
and it's hard for people sometimes to be away for hours and hours. So our goal is to get as many people from Staten Island in the streets that day, because I think that will show a presence of people that are um, not happy with what's going on. And I think there's a lot of people. People are afraid to come out sometimes. Sometimes family members might not be happy with the other one's views, but I think having it in Staten Island will give a lot more people the opportunity to show up, and we're hoping for that. So if you go on the Mobilize app or you get an email from them, they list Staten Island as one of the events. So, it's nice to have stuff out there that people could look at, because there's a lot of people that look at Mobilize but are not connected with SIAC. So now we come up in their list, and it'll be good for us and good for the action that's taking place.
Do you all have a sign up form for No King's Day?
We do. Mobilize has the sign up thing, and we can put it in your on your what do you call it? The notes to the podcast. You have
Show
notes?
notes, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because we want to make one. I was going to offer to make you one if you wanted, but but if you already
No,
have one,
I did it. I did it today. I signed up today, and I just had not done it before. But I got the letter from Mobilize, and I said, "Oh, let's see if we're here," and we were. So I signed up to them, because what they want to know for No King's Day is how many people are going to show up.
right?
Uh, And that's very important. Right now, the importance is how many people take to the streets. That's the only voice we have right now. We don't have any other voices except our own. Our politicians aren't really doing that much. I don't think they're coming to the protest. I wish they were, but um, though we should. I think I'm going to write an invite to all the Democratic politicians in Staten Island and say, "Hey, show up. We're going to be here. We're fighting for you as well as for us." So I'm going to make a note so I don't forget to do that.
Well, I know for a fact that many of them listen to this podcast, so
Okay.
they will definitely hear you.
So that's my invite to them right there.
Absolutely, and we would love to not just see them, but just see everybody. I've been to a few of the Maliotakis protests. I was at the one in June with Dan Goldman, and then in March there was one that was formed in response to what was happening at the time with Doge and Elon Musk and the cuts to services in the federal government. And so and it was a really interesting and it was a really satisfying thing because a lot of times what happens is that as you said, we don't have a whole lot. This is what we have right now, as far as our power, our voice. The media has sold out to him. ABC has, CBS has. CBS just brought on basically, a Trump mouthpiece, Barry Weiss,
Very wise.
to be the editor in chief. Our politicians, Democrats are in the minority, so they don't have a whole lot of power, except in the shutdown, which we'll get to a little bit later. They're actually playing their hand fairly well. And just the Supreme Court has given up all of its authority basically to him. And so our institutions are folding. And so we have to realize at this point, nobody else is coming to save us. And so we have to do it ourselves. I think we've spent the better part of a decade waiting for Robert Mueller to save us, waiting for the first impeachment to save us, waiting for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to save us, waiting for the Trump prosecutions to save us. And I think now it's up to us.
Yeah.
There's nothing else.
I agree. I heard an interesting conversation between Mark Elias of Democracy Now! And Andrew Weissman, who was on the Mueller report today. And when Andrew Weissman said, this is how they were talking about the prosecution of Letitia James, and Andrew Weissman was talking about a Justice Department that reflects the time when he was in it. And Mark Elias jumped in and said, "Hey, Andrew, I appreciate what you're saying, but we're not in that environment anymore. The Justice Department is not what it was before. It's something totally different, and we have to deal with it like that." And that goes to your point. It's up to us to do something. Slowly, I think people are realizing that.
Absolutely. And before we got on, you were telling me about a really interesting tool that people could use to contact their representatives more directly, and not just their direct representatives like Maliotakis is for us, but to the Speaker of the House, our U.S. senators, different people in leadership positions, and it gives them almost instantaneous feedback from constituents. What is that tool that you were referring to?
Okay, so when Trump won in 2016, an organization came up that was called Resist Bot, BOT. And basically, it was created so that people could contact their representatives easily and quickly. People don't have time. People have kids. They pick up their kids. They make dinner. They do laundry. I mean, it, people are busy.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this was a way that you could easily contact people. Um, I've been associated with them from their inception, and we've delivered 40 million letters to representatives since that time. We've also delivered in paper. I don't remember what the issue was, but one time we actually printed out everything and delivered masses of boxes to the person in Congress we were trying to reach. And I wish I could remember right now what it was about, but basically the issue came in our favor because this was people delivering messages to their congresspeople. It's Let me tell you how it's used, how people can use it because it's so simple. In a text, you would text the word resist to the number 50409. And when you did that, if you have used it before, it would have all your information. If you haven't used it before, it's going to ask you where you live. And that kind of makes people shy away sometimes. But
Yeah.
in order to know who your representatives are, we need to know where you live.
Right.
So Once you do that and you give them your email, um, you then have keywords that you can text. So the keyword, if you said resist, they would say, who do you want to speak to? Who do you want to write to? In our case, it would be your congressperson is Nicole Maliotakis, your senators Charles Schumer and Gillibrand, and it would say, who do you want to reach? And you would say, senators, and it would send something directly to Gillibrand and Schumer. And you just text your message. It lets you review it. It lets you add to it. It lets you clear it if you don't like it. And then you eventually send it. And what it does is it sends you um, a small like placard that gives the message exactly as you sent it. I know it gets there because I've gotten messages back from Schumer and Gillibrand's office that, oh, I got your message and wanted to tell you this is what I'm doing about this issue. Um, you can publicize that by posting on Facebook and say, "Hey, I wrote," and I've done it sometimes that you might have
I've
seen it.
seen, I've
Um,
seen, I've seen that. I wasn't sure where it came from. I thought maybe it was just something that was like a form on their website or something.
yeah, no, but it says registered voter in Richmond County and it gives my name, my first name and stuff on it. But so you can promote people to do the same. You could also make your letter into a petition. To get to, and other people could click on it and say sign. It'll give you a number. You sign that number, and you'll be a signage to that. I have not been able to get too much traction with that, and I'm hoping that now that SIAC is more organized and everybody knows their roles. With 15 people, it's work, and we're all happy to do it, but you need to be organized. And we're like really organized right now. So I can start to look for other tools that would help us. Um, it the key to guide words, I mean, you can register to vote. You can find out where your voting place is. You can make a petition. You can get to the Speaker of the House, the President, the Supreme Court. Many elected officials, or like Supreme Court non-elected officials, appointed officials, and write to them, and it gets there. I mean, so to me, there's nothing better. And they will fax it or email it.
Okay.
So it's interesting. Yeah. I have a premium membership, so I can do like, and I think it cost me $70 for the year. And I do it only because I don't have to do it because I work for them, but I do it because I want to support them in as many ways as possible. The keywords, you can make your letter open to the public so that everybody could see it. It's on their website. You can see how many people wrote letters to Meliotakis. You click New York, it'll have all New York representatives.
That I'm
Meliotakis, I think,
that
got
I'm interested
3,000 letters.
that I'm
So,
interested in. And
yeah,
do they show you the content of the letters?
some of the letters, if you make your letter open, but I don't know if Meliotakis had any open letters. I'm unsure.
Because
I
I
looked at it
really
quickly today.
because if you listen to her, she's got, broad support here. But if I'm that's why I'm interested in seeing these letters, because these letters I think are probably a more accurate representation of what
Exactly.
the feedback
Of
she's
what people
actually
are
getting.
thinking.
Yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, I use it probably almost every day to say something to her. And I'm never abusive. I want her to understand that there's something very wrong with what's going on. Um, I don't believe she's ignorant. I
No,
believe
she's
she
still
lost her way. And
no,
that's
she's
the only
still
way I can put it.
well, no, well, you're too good, Elena. But I would say I've been following her for the 15 years of her career, and she is entirely self-serving.
And that's
She
possible.
she is entirely self-serving. She she's always chased headlines. She is always, and the advances, the local media has helped her. Any puff piece she's ever wanted, she's gotten.
Yeah.
And she passed in 10 years in the New York State Assembly, she passed no legislation. Uh, and she always blamed the fact that Republicans were in the minority there. Um, when she got to Congress, her first act was to deny the certification of a free and fair election in 2 states. And right after the mob, who also denied that election, ransacked her office and killed cops and did all sorts of terrible things, wanting to hang the vice president and the leader of her body, the Speaker of the House. And she has continued to be a patsy for Trump, and it's a matter of convenience for her. In 2017, she said that she regretted her vote for Trump when she was running for mayor, and now there's nothing he can't do. If he says jump, she says how high.
Yeah,
And so she is entirely self-serving. I think she will always do what's in the best interest of her own advancement. She forgot the words to the Pledge of Allegiance recently, and I said, well, that's not a surprise to me. The only thing she's ever pledged allegiance to is her own advancement and to Donald Trump. And so,
yeah,
public service and service to this country are foreign concepts to her because if it's the right, moral, just, and patriotic thing to do, you could pretty much rely on her to do the opposite.
yeah. And being a Catholic, I'm
Mhm.
going after her conscience. And
You
do
can't
you know
go
what I
after
mean?
what doesn't exist,
Everybody
Elena.
uses their own path to get places. And you know my videos, I yell at her. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
literally,
Oh,
I
I know.
yell at her.
Well, I was gonna say. Well, I was gonna say. I love your videos. As I said earlier, and you're so fact based. You're so on point. But I was like, when you say, "Oh, she owns this," and she's like, "Yeah, okay." Well, she has no shame.
Probably.
She has no shame at all. So I don't think I don't think she feels shame or guilt about much.
Yeah,
Um,
you're probably right,
you
but
know.
I will always give someone the benefit of the doubt that someday some light bulb is going to go off in their head that says you shouldn't be dragging children off the street. You shouldn't have the military hurting people in cities. Do you know what I mean? There are so,
Oh
I can
yeah.
go down the list. You know, there's so many
Oh
things.
yeah, we're going to get to a lot of it tonight. But if Donald Trump told her to carve out her mother's heart on an altar in front of the White House, she would do it, and she would absolutely do it. And so somebody said to me, it was a leader of a nonprofit who said, "Oh, they had faith that Nicole would, do the right thing and restore that funding." I said, "I don't share your optimism. Like I've seen this woman operate for about 15 years. I know what she's going to do. So when she says, 'Oh, I'm going to really think on that, big ugly bill,' and then votes for it anyway," I'm like, "Well, come on. Did you not see that coming? I mean,
Yeah.
come on." And so but there's definitely a lot to get to, and the biggest thing as we were coming on, the story was the indictment of Letitia James in, I think it's the Eastern District of Virginia.
Yes.
And so and that comes after several prosecutors either resigned or refused to pursue the case. And of course, he has, this bimbo, Lindsay Halligan, who is pursuing this case and the case against former FBI Director James Comey. And just to give our listeners some background, Letitia James did not criminally prosecute Donald Trump. She brought a civil case against Donald Trump for inflating the value of his assets artificially to get more favorable terms on loans and to cheat taxes in the state of New York. And so she won a very big judgment against him, about $500 million. And he's appealing that. It's sort of in legal limbo at this point, but this is in retaliation for uh, that civil action that she brought against him. And I've known Tish James for a very long time. When I was president of the Young Dems, she was a council member and she was running for public advocate at the time. And if I needed a speaker, she was always there. She always came. And so she always came, and she was always a friend to Staten Island. And she's come here even in recent years where, she's knew she would face some hostility here over her actions towards Donald Trump. But she's always come here. She's always been a friend to Staten Island. This is purely a malicious, petty, vindictive prosecution by a malicious, petty, vindictive man. And so I'm she Tish James is a brilliant lawyer. I have confidence that that a judge would throw this case out, or even if it does go to trial, she'll be exonerated of all charges. What are your thoughts on this, Elena?
Yeah. And I don't think for Trump it matters whether she gets convicted or not. It's
Yeah.
just that he's causing a disruption in this woman's life, no matter what. I mean, if you're indicted and there's all those eyes on you, so I, I don't think he could possibly win the cases. I mean, no one in the prosecution's office wanted to sign off on it except for Halligan. She's the only one that signed off on this one, And on the Comey one, there was another man present with her today in court, but no one was quite sure whether he came from the Eastern District or whether he came. There were some judges that came from, some prosecutors that came from South Carolina to help her on the Comey thing. So it's just, it's retribution. It's a shame. And the point I made to Meliotakis, it's a waste of time and money when there's so many other things that are happening right now that we're going to do retribution on people. I believe that she will walk away from this clean without a problem, but I believe there will be at least another 5 or 6 people that will be indicted quickly.
Oh,
It
I think
seems everything has to happen quickly. I almost think sometimes that the Stephen Millers and the Bannons and the other people and the what's his name, the 2025 guy, what
Russ Vought.
was right. I think that they think Trump is losing it, so we need to work quickly to
Well,
get these
that
things
too, but
done.
I think that, this time around, Trump didn't know what he was doing last time because
True.
he had no idea what the true levers of power were inside the government. And last time there were people there who said, "No, I'm not doing that." And back then, I sort of gave those people shit, like Don McGahn and Pat Cipollone, and
I did too.
I gave those people a lot of shit for the things they did back then. But now I'm like, no, they were like, it was better to have those people, and John Kelly, Mark Milley. It was really good to have those people around because they did care, even though many of them were ultimately supine in many ways to Trump. They did care, at least in the
They
barest
cared about the
minimum. The
institutions
institution, yeah,
and what the law says. And
yeah.
there's no one in the Trump administration that cares about that. I don't think I could name one.
No, there isn't. There isn't. And I would say there's not one. I would say that the people who are around him now are a lot of the times more radical than he is. I would say
Well,
that,
they have a true ideology. For Trump, it's only about making money for himself and his family. Has nothing to do with ideology. He does not care about anything. He's not tied to an abortion issue. He's not tied to civil rights issues. He's not tied to any issue. It's only about making money. The only reason he uses those people is because they've made him famous. They use him, they manipulate him. He's like, a little doll
well,
that they put on his hand,
well, that
on
too,
their
but
hand.
I also think it's kind of a toxic codependency. I think the kind of relationship you're talking about that he has to them is true, that many of those people just kind of tell him what he wants to hear, and often he's well known to listen to the last person who was in the
Mhm.
room, whoever it is. But I also think, and Ruth Ben-Ghiat, who is a scholar of authoritarianism, she talks about the fact that authoritarians often surround themselves with complete losers and fuck ups. And the reason that they surround themselves with complete losers and fuck ups is because those people would be nothing without them. And they would be nothing. Like, who the fuck is going to hire Stephen Miller after this? Like, who is going to hire Lindsay Halligan? Like, I'm surprised that she maintains her law license after she's done, however this ends. And
I
so,
think she was an insurance lawyer, and it's funny because I heard Linda Rubin on MSNBC. They were making fun of insurance lawyers, and Linda Rubin said, let's not categorize everyone who's an insurance lawyer as a Halligan. So
yeah.
it was interesting how she came out for the lawyers. She might have been an insurance lawyer at one point in her life, but it was funny how she came out like that. But this woman is just following directions. I mean, that's what they
Well,
do.
her and Pam Bondi too. I mean, Pam Bondi was testifying before the Senate a couple of days ago. I think Adam Schiff is probably next as far as the indictments are concerned.
Probably.
If I had to guess, I think Adam Schiff is probably next.
We can take bets on
Yes,
that.
absolutely.
Put odds on
Oh yeah,
it.
well, I'm sure I'm sure one of the betting markets probably already has it. Some
Yeah.
like Polymarket or something probably already has it. But I think Adam Schiff is probably next on, they seem to be going after this mortgage thing as the big issue. Perhaps Lisa Cook, who he wants to get rid of on the Fed board. I think that may also be down the pipeline. But I think, Tish James is a brilliant lawyer. She does not do anything with fear or favor. And if you don't believe, don't take my word for it. Ask Andrew Cuomo.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Ask Andrew Cuomo. Andrew Cuomo is not governor right now because of Tish James.
Because of Letitia James. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
And so
So, I
I
mean, she's done a good job for New Yorkers, and I think that most New Yorkers respect her position, and respect when she gets out and speaks, because she's speaking for us.
she
We pay
is.
her, and she speaks for us.
She is, and not only has she gone after some bad actors in politics, but she's really held a lot of big tech accountable. She's held the NRA to account.
Mhm.
She's almost practically bankrupted them at one point, and so I think that she has fought the good fight in many ways. And this is going to be, an issue that we're going to monitor. We're going to stay on top of. But I think, as you said earlier, I don't see this going anywhere, but that may not even be the point. The point is just to, torture this woman, not literally, but torture this woman as far as like the disruption to her life and legal fees and all this other bullshit that she has to now put up with.
Yeah, yeah, it's sad. It's sad that this is happening, and I feel sorry for these people. And I think it's going to happen to Fannie Willis as well.
Yes, absolutely. I was going to say that as well. They subpoenaed her travel records recently. Uh,
Oh, interesting. Yeah, yes, I heard that. I heard
They
that.
did. They subpoenaed her travel records, and who knows why? I mean, is that illegal now? I don't know, but I just, but we'll see. I think that a lot of I think we have to. George Conway said that he was thinking about putting together a legal defense fund for a lot of these people who are going to be on the shit end of these
Yeah,
prosecutions.
that's a
So
good idea. I think a
yeah,
lot of people would donate.
I would donate to that.
Me
Yeah.
too.
I would donate to that. I think that we can't have a country where these kind of banana republic actions take place on a regular basis. And again, the cases against Tish and James Comey are likely to be thrown out. I mean, Tish is a hell of a lawyer who could spit this girl out, chew her up and spit her out in a courtroom.
I would like to see her defend herself. She won't. She
No,
has a good lawyer. She has oh, they mentioned her lawyer today, and I can't remember who it is, but
wasn't Robbie Kaplan, was it?
no, it's somebody famous though, and it's escaping me right now who it is. By the time the end of the podcast comes, I might remember. But it was mentioned today that it's a man, and he was representing her. He's represented others. It'll come, maybe, Andrew.
Well, I think I may know who it is. I'll Google it afterwards. But so we'll monitor this. We'll stay on top of it. Definitely another reason to come out on October 18th. We
Mhm.
can't have kings who throw their political enemies in jail just because they take action or they speak out against them. It's
Yeah, and,
un-American.
and and I agree. The 18th is going to be big because no kings before. There's so much that has happened in that short period of time that has upset people. Even, Trump's numbers are way down with the immigration because nobody wants to see children stopped in the streets, by armed masked men. I mean,
Well, what's
it's
happening.
unfathomable to me.
Yeah, well, what's happening in Chicago is absolutely horrific. I mean, and then you have Kristi Noem making a promo video out of it with shackled and
Jumping out of helicopters,
yeah,
scaling walls.
it's so and it was so oh my God, it was so fucking tactless and it was so uh inhumane and it's so like ew.
But I think some people see through that because now they're seeing people that have lived in these communities for years and years and years. All of a sudden, they're being disappeared, or they're being asked very nicely in a video that Christine O made. Oh, if you leave, we'll give you money, and yes, maybe you'll be able to come back. Okay, they're never coming back. Why would
Well,
they want
I
to?
was
Is
yeah, I
the
was like, I
question.
wouldn't I wouldn't fucking want to come back after this bullshit, please. And I just it's just terrible and uh I thought Trump was bluffing when he put on Truth Social that I'm going to arrest Governor J.B. Pritzker and Mayor Brandon Johnson in
But he
Chicago.
might.
He might. Yeah, he might.
He
It's
might.
he might. I'm like, after today with Tish James, I'm like, well, maybe, or maybe it's a thing. And I don't know if he wants to necessarily pick a fight with JB Pritzker, an actual billionaire, because he's got the money and the resources to take it all the way and to fight it and to potentially win if
Yeah.
necessary.
You know what concerns me, Andrew, about what's going on in Chicago is that he's playing this game, and it's not him, it's people like Stephen Miller doing this. He's playing this game, whereas let's get the people out on the streets. Uh, you people only be peaceful for a certain amount of time. I believe.
Well, they
With the
want to
Vietnam War,
protect.
it took a long time for people to get violent in the streets. I mean, I was there, I've seen it, I lived it. But once that happens, then he turns around and said, "Oh, this is an insurrection." And then the courts can't rule on it. The courts are eliminated from ruling after the president makes that announcement. So I got really nervous the other day when I heard that. And I said, "Well, okay. How
Well,
does this
yeah.
work?"
Well, yeah, he's been wanting a pretext to either to invoke the Insurrection Act or to seize some power that he very likely constitutionally and legally doesn't have, but he wants to take anyway. And so in June, when this was all happening in Los Angeles, I was really hoping, you know, please, folks, don't throw things at these
Yeah, yeah, I
cops
agree.
or at these military because it's just an excuse to crack down. He wants that Reichstag fire moment.
Yeah. And there were thousands of people yesterday in Chicago, and there was a Cub game on. They were playing in the playoffs, and there were still thousands of people in the streets very peacefully. The best peaceful protest I see are in Portland, where they get dressed up in animals and they have musical
Yeah,
numbers.
I was like, I
I
thought it
saw
was
a
a war
film
zone.
clip.
I thought it was a war zone. It's Barney the fucking dinosaurs out there. Like,
Exactly, exactly. But I give people credit for being innovative with how they do this stuff because, there's not many media it's not, the Washington Post had nothing on their headline today about Chicago on their front page. Oh, that's another thing ResistBot does. ResistBot sends me every morning three newspapers' front pages. So I get the Dallas Morning, the Advance, and the Washington Post. So every morning I could see what are they feeding their people. But what I'm concerned about is that there's very few people covering Chicago as as well as MSNBC and Jacob Silveroff, who's always done a great job on the immigration stuff, and he's been there and he's been reporting on it. But there's not that many other channels covering it in that depth. And that concerns me. It's like a breakdown of media.
well, yeah, and I think also part of why he's sending troops on the street is because he wants to normalize it. I mean, I think that if he wants to normalize it, I mean, how long have they been there in DC? They've been there at least a month and a
Well,
half.
they don't have to stay there anymore because there's no crime.
Yeah.
He has said there's no crime in DC.
Well, yeah, but they're still there and they're cleaning up
So I'm
trash,
almost
making
hoping like
leaves.
someone like lightly mugs Stephen Miller
Yeah.
while he's walking.
Yeah, they, these poor National Guards people are raking up leaves, they're picking up trash. There's not much for them to do there, but still, I think he wants to normalize, and Pritzker said this as well. Pritzker said he wants to normalize the presence of troops on the street.
Yeah,
So,
I think he went to Chicago for that reason instead of New York. New York's a very big city. Chicago, I know the areas. I worked there for many years, and so I know the areas that they're talking about, and Cicero, and where the big Latino communities are. And it's kind of a smaller community. New York is going to be a lot harder, and he might have made some promises to our mayor,
well, the current mayor,
who went to Albania this week.
yeah, well, that's fine. Stay. They can have him. But I think I think Pritzker said that he wants to normalize it so that he can send military people to polling places next year or potentially
Yeah.
seize voting machines, which is what he wanted to do after 2020. There's testimony, the 1-6 Commission report made that clear. Michael Flynn suggested it to seize voting machines, have the military do it. But I don't think he's going to do it in New York yet. I think he's waiting for Zohran Mamdani to get elected mayor.
And I agree with you.
Yeah,
I absolutely agree with you. That's the moment.
yeah, he
He
will.
doesn't want to go near Eric Adams because,
Yeah,
he made
he
some
will.
deals with him, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
he will.
But I think he's waiting for Mandami.
He wants Mamdani. He wants a confrontation with Mamdani. And so I think he's waiting to do that. I think he's waiting to mobilize the National Guard to do that. And I would give it maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks after he's sworn in, and then,
So in January, you're talking, it
oh
won't
yeah,
happen till January, yeah.
yeah,
It was funny, I was in a bar the other night and I've learned to, I'm following, you know who Tim Schneider is, who wrote the book
yes,
Tyranny?
I love that
Okay.
book. Yeah,
Yes, very small book, very appropriate for right now. But what he said the other day is, this is not the time to sit quietly or walk down the street without talking to people. You need to stop everybody you see and tell them what you think. And I've always been like a proponent of that. My husband hates when I go to a bar with him because this is what I do. I go over to people sitting at the bar. I hand them SIAC's card. I say, "Hey, how you doing?" But the conversations I've been having have been very interesting. One I had last night. Um, where one of it was a man and a woman, married young couple, very articulate, and she was for Cuomo, and he was thinking of going for Sliwa. And we were just discussing the pros and cons in that. And she asked me, why wouldn't you vote for Cuomo? And I said, he's abused many women, and women don't come out and say I've been abused if they haven't, because the rest of their lives, it's a stamp on them. Unless you've done it and understand that. I worked for a company where someone reported someone to me and I had to bring it to the top and they were devastated because it lived with them.
yeah,
And I felt sorry for that.
yeah,
But so I said, for me, that takes Cuomo off the table. So then he asked me about Sliwa. And I said, Sliwa, I don't think he's an evil man. He's been around New York for years, kind of a vigilante on both sides, trying, I hate what he did to Mandami's Istanbul restaurant
I was
party
there.
event.
Nancy and I were there. Yeah,
Yeah, I hated that, but I don't think he's evil. I just don't
no,
think he's good for the city in any
he's
way.
not
So, and
not a
then
serious not a serious person.
right. And then they spoke a little bit about Mandami actually um, uh, promising things he couldn't do and how a $30 an hour paycheck would put little businesses out of business. And I understand that. I mean, that's reality. And I said, okay, go back to de Blasio, who promised everything. But the two things he promised was preschool and sick days. And he got those two. So I've never hated de Blasio because he got two very important things done when he was there. If you can get one thing done as mayor, it's big.
Yeah,
I haven't
well,
seen anything Eric got done yet. At least I'm not thinking of it.
selling out to the Turkish government and to Donald Trump and to
Well, now it's Albania.
yeah, it depends on, who or what is buying him off now. I don't know.
Who's
Uh,
paying for his trip?
yeah, exactly. And so I think that I think it'll be interesting. I hope I'm wrong about Mamdani and the troops, but I just kind of have that feeling that that's what's
Yeah,
going to happen.
I agree with you, Andrew. I think that's when it might happen here. Actually, Monday's event, Meliotakis Mondays, if I didn't say this before, there's a group doing it every Monday, and we're trying to be consistent so people know where we are when we're there, and they can come by and honk or join us. And we've had like 50 or 60 people almost every Monday lately, and different groups coalesce. Usually there's one message for the week, but this Monday's message, and it's 3 to 5, I think, on Monday, is about ICE not being here. And they're using the Latino culture banging pots
Oh,
together.
cool.
So they
Okay.
said bring pots. So I'm
Okay.
interested in that one. So, but I think that we need to just keep saying ice can't come here, ice can't come here, ice can't come here a million times between now and January. So
Yeah.
maybe people will start to understand what would happen with that.
ICE, the National Guard, regular troops, none of those people should be doing civilian policing. And it's not only unconstitutional, it's against the law, the Posse Comitatus Act.
Hmm.
And so none of that should be happening. And the one thing that I think that I was really happy to see is the judge in Oregon who wrote a really blistering opinion about what he planned to do there.
Yeah.
And she said this is blatantly unconstitutional, illegal, And, of course, Stephen Miller said she was a radical left judge that they appointed in the first term. I mean,
Yeah.
because, and this is not, by the way, folks, this is not a radical left judge. I'm not thinking of her name right now, but she was actually a prosecutor in Ken Starr's special
Yes, yes. She's the one
investigation.
that she interviewed Monica Lewinsky.
She personally deposed her. Yeah, she
Yes.
personally deposed her. This is not, a bleeding heart lib. This is this is not a
Yeah.
bleeding heart lib.
I'm only hoping that the Supreme Court might start supporting their appellate judges because the appellate judges in the immunity case, they wrote an unbelievable decision that the Supreme Court just sort of said that stands. And right now they're like, I don't know what word to use. They're disrespecting their own people by by having these shadow dockets and making decisions without writing anything why this is temporary, but we didn't hear the case yet, but they keep kind of pushing down their own people, their own judges, people that
Yeah.
have been there for years, and that's very sad.
Yeah, they are diminishing the power of the judicial branch. They are
Mhm.
it's slowly eroding, and day by day, case by case, and because they have allowed him to strip temporary protections for certain migrants, they've allowed him to dismantle certain agencies, and without, as you said, any explanation, because they're using the shadow docket to do it. And so they don't have, so normally you would hear arguments, you would hear the back and forth normally, and that's what most people think of when they think of Supreme Court cases. But that's not what's happening. I think radicals like Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito, I think the reason they're doing it is because it's a realization of the vision they've had for decades, which is
Yes,
basically,
those two are the ones, but they're not the majority. And I would have thought that Roberts, as conservative as he is, and how he wants executive power, he always has, and he's written about it and other things that I don't like. But I thought there would be some integrity there, and it's just gone.
yeah, well, and a lot of people think that it's just these recent cases, and it's not. It's actually been a slow moving thing. So
Mhm.
if you 2010 Citizens United,
Yep.
2013 the Shelby County case, which gutted the Voting Rights Act. Then you get the
Well,
immunity.
Roberts has always been against the Voting Rights Act.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Well, then you get a lot of cases in this current court where you have the most outrageous gerrymandered maps are allowed to stand. And then you have the immunity decision, you have the overturning of Roe versus Wade. You have probably they're going to bring back conversion therapy
Oh,
for
I know.
for
That
minors.
was scary this week for me.
Yeah. And so they're bringing that back. And so this is a realization of a vision that many of them have had for many, many years. And I just wonder what the situation is or what the case is going to be where they actually rule against Trump and then Trump says, "Well, fuck you, I'm doing it anyway."
Yeah.
And so I wonder when that's going to happen. And people are like, "Oh, are we going to be in a constitution?" We are in a constitutional crisis right now. And
Yeah,
so,
I hate to say that, but I know we are. I
yeah.
mean, I follow politics like you do, and
Yeah,
I know we're there already. We're over the edge, and the damage that Trump has done will be with us for years and years and years, because you know how long it took them 50 years to overturn abortion,
yeah,
Roe versus Wade, 50 years. So it might take a 50 years to get back. And those issues, to me, the abortion issue and the trans issue and the gay issue is huge. And those issues have fallen off the radar now. I don't hear anybody reporting about them except for Jessica Valenti and Erin Ryan, people that's their stream. They're on Substack. Jessica Valenti uh, will will produce every state's what they're doing, and Erin Reed about trans people, every law that's happening. But if you're not reading those, you don't know how many people in Texas are dying
well,
because
yeah,
they can't get care. Yeah, and it's just off the radar because there's so much else happening.
Well, it's just say, well, you mentioned Steve Bannon before in the strategy, in his
Excuse
words,
me.
it's flood the zone with shit. So this way, there's so much coming. It's a fire hose. It's impossible to almost respond to every single thing, and that's the whole point.
Is it
Um,
more than you thought it would be?
uh, I like I said, I thought I knew this time would be worse. I knew this time would be worse and it would be much more fast paced because they know what they're doing now. He's been there before. He knows where the levers are. And he knows that he has, if he's going to do any of this stuff and he's going to have, a term and maybe a shot at a lifetime dictatorship, which is really what he wants, then he's going to have to do it before 2026 and he's going to have to rig 2026 somehow because if you look back at the last term it was 2018 when the Democrats and Nancy Pelosi took back the House that you really started to see some accountability. The first
Yeah.
impeachment, you saw she stood up to him in the first shut in the last shutdown of the government, and so things started to unravel for him after those midterms, and
Yeah.
so he knows better now, and he knows better now, and that's why he's trying to rig these 2026 with these phony maps. We had Vicky Goodwin on a few weeks ago, who is a Texas state legislator,
Yeah.
and she was talking about all of this. But luckily, what I heard is that in Indiana, they're not, even though they got a call from Trump and JD Vance to
They're
do,
not doing it.
no, they're not. And
And
so
I think some states will hold out because for various reasons. I don't know for the right reasons, but whatever reasons, it's okay.
well, yeah, well, I think it is. I really give credit to Gavin Newsom for this because Gavin Newsom
Mm.
is very likely, at least if the polling holds up, is very likely going to pass his new maps.
Yeah.
And so I think that he was like, oh yeah, well, you're going to do this, so are we. And so and in New York, I don't know that we're able to do it right now because we've sort of tied our hands with all this good governance stuff.
I
Uh,
don't think for Miliotaka's district it would make a difference.
No, but I
The
was really
majority of
hoping.
the people are here. There's 480,000 people here, maybe only 30 or 40,000 in Brooklyn. I don't think whether they move it to Park Slope, yeah, not enough people.
I was really happy in early 2022 when I saw it because my school where I work is in Park Slope, and I was like, oh great, it's I know that neighborhood. We're gonna finally get rid of her. Great. And but of course, the courts intervened, and the governor didn't really pursue it all that much after the special master reworked the map. So I'm hoping that Gavin Newsom sort of lights this fire, and we get to do it too, and we have actual representation, and
Yeah.
not just the professional ribbon cutter that we've had for the last 5 years.
And I still think we can, uh, she can lose here. I think that you, me, and a lot of other people have a lot of work to do, but I think that um, we might be able to do it. It might be just because people don't go out to vote.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I always said that it was not so much, although I was talking with Laura Sword on the last podcast
Oh, I want to
episode.
mention something to you after about Laura
Yeah.
Sword.
Yeah, and so I was talking with her, and I said I've really noticed. I grew up here on Staten Island, and I've always known that it's kind of rightward from where the rest of the city is. But in the last 5 years, I've noticed just a very aggressive and hard turn right. And
Hmm.
so I'm hoping, but also in addition to that, there's also for the people who are not so hard right, there are people who are just apathetic. And so I think we have to break through that mold and get the people who would normally not come out to vote to
We have
vote.
to energize those people.
Yeah, we do. We
And
have,
we did it for Max Rose. I mean, I canvassed all
yeah.
the projects for Max Rose, and it was one of the most interesting things I've ever done. I mean, I've canvassed before on the South Shore and stuff, but doing the projects was very interesting because I went into apartments and, you have the name of a person, a Democrat or something that lives in the apartment, but other people might answer the door. And, I would talk to them and we would chat, but it was a very interesting thing. And I think that's how Max won.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we have an opportunity, and I'm hoping that the polling suggests that the Democrats have played their hand well in this government shutdown. That's also happening, by the way, in addition to political prosecution, in addition to all this other stuff, this raids in major cities and military boots on the ground. We also have a government shutdown that I think is in its ninth day. And so
Yeah, I think
and yeah, it's in its ninth day. And so far it seems that Democratic leadership, surprisingly so, because they're not always adept at this stuff, but they have played their hand very well. Because the polling seems to suggest that the public blames Donald Trump and the Republicans in Congress, despite Maliotakis's Schumer shutdown stuff that she's been peddling on social media. Uh, and I think people are starting to see through it. The Democrats chose healthcare as their major focus for, as their rationale for why they're shutting down the government, uh, to extend the Obamacare subsidies that are set to expire in December. And I know you can't, from a messaging point of view, you can't make it about everything. But for me, I would have just said, well, healthcare, the subsidies are important, absolutely. But I would also say, why should I fund a government that is raiding apartment buildings? Why should I fund a justice department that prosecutes your political enemies? Why should I fund your ICE immigration system that's basically a Buchenwald?
yeah,
Why should I fund all of this horrible shit? And why should we do that? And so that would be my stance. But I know
yeah.
that
I
healthcare is,
totally agree with you. My big thing is why should we be funding a government that is doing things that are totally illegal? We shouldn't be funding them. And that's where my brain goes all the time. But the healthcare issue was a good one for the Dems to pick up on.
it was, and I think, I don't have much faith in Hakeem Jeffries or Chuck Schumer because they sort of, are using, they're in 2025 in the environment we're in with a 1999 playbook. And so I think that and so when Schumer folded in March, I was like, oh, great, this is going to look awful stupid when we're uh, protesting all these things that Democrats just voted to fund. But I think now they've played their hand well. But I would also say, uh, Democrats, even when Schumer and others folded in March, came to a budget agreement that was then rescinded.
Right. And I think it's the recessions that made them understand it doesn't matter if it's a clean CR
No,
because they're not spending the money that was appropriated. And I think, when Meliotakis always says, oh, he signed this 9 times before. No, he didn't. It's not the same situation. I made a video about that too, who knows, but uh it's a very different time. And I'm hoping they'll hold out, but who knows? Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries have not endorsed Mandani yet.
no, and I think that
And he's the Democrat. He won the primary hugely.
he did, and they should follow suit. And Hakeem Jeffries, I think, should be fucking ashamed of him. I'm cursing a lot. I shouldn't be, but I am. I can tell you can tell I have many feelings about all this. Uh, Hakeem Jeffries voted to honor Charlie Kirk before he endorsed Zara Mamdani, which is outrageous to me. And I
So did
think,
Cardinal Dolan, for that matter.
yeah. Well, he's a religious leader, so I won't say what I was going to say. But like,
I wrote a letter to him. I wrote a letter, and then I
yeah,
wrote an article about it because it was unheard of for
yeah.
me.
I
Being a
mean,
Catholic, those things like, whoa, how could that happen? How could he say that?
yeah,
He called him St. Paul. He said he's the modern St. Paul.
yeah.
Actually, Pope Leo said something after that, and it wasn't directly about Dolan, but it made the point.
Yeah, well, the Pope made a point of saying, that if we're really pro-life, that we have to show that through our treatment of immigrants.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so, I think that that was a really poignant and pointed message. Nobody had to read between the lines to guess who or what he was talking about, and I think that was
yeah.
a really solid point. So we'll see how this shutdown ends, but I'm really hoping that, and as far as I can tell, the GOP is sort of folding a little bit. Marjorie Taylor Greene has come around to our way of thinking about this.
About two things,
Yeah.
about
Well,
bad
but
stain file and the medical, because her son has to pay double what he was paying before.
yeah. And so, well, she's come around on a lot of things. She's come around on Epstein. She's come around on the subsidies. She's come around on, she's had probably the most reasonable position I've heard on Israel and Gaza, which is odd from her for her, which is pretty odd. And so she's, she's sort of our new bestie a little bit. But I think that we'll see. She might get a phone call from Donald Trump and change her tune.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm not going with Bestie on her yet.
Oh no, no, I'm not. I'm just teasing. Yeah. No, well, she's still very, she's still very much a ghoul in a lot of ways, but I think that she's, had the right position on some things, and that's also part of the reason that the Republicans, including Nicole Malliotakis, will not seat the new House member from Arizona,
Yeah,
because she is the 218th vote to force
the
release
Epstein
of the
files.
Epstein
Yep.
files. And if you remember back in the summer, Mike Johnson released the House early on their recess to avoid having to deal with this. He is now out of recess again, also for having to avoid having to deal with this. Because he is covering for Donald Trump and for some of his donors that are presumably there. And Ghislaine Maxwell actually said in that interview with Todd Blanche that several of the cabinet members are involved.
I don't know if the Epstein files are ever coming out, but the people that suffered the most are the victims of that. There was one of the very young victims. She was 14 when it happened to her, and she says, "I want the files to come out because I've kind of blacked out. I want to actually know what happened to me." And that's so sad. There's so many victims, and I think that's what actually speaking to them is what turned Marjorie Greene around.
Yeah, well, Marjorie Taylor Greene actually got to Congress as a conspiracy theorist. She was very big.
She did.
She was very big on the QAnon stuff,
Yeah.
which had Epstein in its lore. This whole, Democrats are pedophiles and eating babies and drinking their blood to stay young. And
And Bobby
so
Kennedy alive somewhere in Texas.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
well, JFK Jr. actually,
JFK Jr., right?
JFK Jr. I wish he was alive. He was so gorgeous. But like, and he's by far now we're left with the shittiest Kennedy in HHS. But
Yep.
like, but I think that Marjorie Taylor Greene actually is doing this because she was actually a real believer at some point, and I think that she's starting to kind of wake up and realize that the bill of goods she was sold by MAGA for all these years is a bill of goods.
Yeah.
It's not what she thought it was. Most of her time in Congress was when Joe Biden was president, so she was just sort of the antagonist and the rebel rouser. And now that her side is in power, she sees that it's not what she was told it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting how that comes about, um, and how long she holds on to that.
Yeah, well, I've been joking. Nancy and I have been joking. I said, is Marjorie Taylor Greene the new Liz Cheney? Like, is
Oh, I don't
Marjorie
know.
the new
I
Liz?
was thinking, I haven't heard her at all lately, Liz Cheney.
Well, no, and I hope that I'm sure she's on that list of, enemies to
I'm sure she is,
prosecute.
but usually sometimes she says something and I haven't heard neither
Yeah.
her nor her father, who believe me, I'm not a fan of either, but um, Liz had integrity. She walked away, Well, she got dumped, but she
Oh,
got
she
dumped
knew.
because she made certain decisions. She
She
made
knew.
choices.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she knew what the costs were. And so I think that she walked away knowing that and, uh, campaigned for Democrats and, has been thus far doing the right thing. And so my point about Marjorie and about Liz and about anybody else who kind of maybe was under that haze or under the spell of the strong man, I think when they wake up, finally, we have to welcome them back.
yes.
We
Yep.
have to, and we
We've
can't.
welcomed the Never Trumpers.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to welcome them
I
back.
love Tim Miller,
Me too. I love the
the one
Bulwark.
podcast I always listen to.
Yeah, the Bulwark. I love all their podcasts. I love the focus group. I love all of that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we have to, I think, welcome those people back once they snap out of it, once they snap out of the spell. And and a lot of right wingers, when I say things like that, they're saying, "Oh, well, you're saying I'm too dumb to, know." I'm saying, "No, you've been lied to.
Yeah.
And you've
And,
been."
I think most of our news is going to come from podcasts and Substack. And as this media fails,
Mhm.
and I believe the media is failing,
They are.
failing us. in what they report. I'm not saying they're not accurate, but they're not reporting everything that's happening, and that's disturbing to me in many reasons. I saw it during the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
Until they started putting pictures in the paper and they were running film clips. I mean, literally nothing happened. We were on the streets for years and nothing happened until the media turned the switch and started publicizing things that we all knew were happening.
Well, I'm hoping that, that the last vestiges of media that calls themselves independent and hasn't paid off Trump somehow, like ABC or CBS, or hasn't absorbed one of their zealots like Barry Weiss.
Yeah,
I'm hoping that those last vestiges stand for freedom of the press. And for TikTok users like my own mother, I always say, you better get off that because Bill Ackman's going to own it and he's going to flood that algorithm with all their propaganda.
yeah,
And so it's really alarming just the consolidation of certain media entities and the perspectives they represent. And, they claim to be about free speech, but then when there's something there that they disagree with, they change their tune.
yeah. And luckily in New York, we still have NPR and PBS. And I feel bad for the states that they don't have enough donations to keep them going. I think New York, though, those media channels will remain and um, will be the best ones. I mean, NBC is spinning off MSNBC.
Yeah, yeah,
That
MS
happened this week.
MS Now.
MS Now.
Yeah, and
So I'm going to an event with all those MSNBC people on Saturday. I'm very excited about
me
it.
too. Me too. I'm going. I'll
Oh,
be
good.
I'll be there. Which session are you going to?
I'm going to both.
Oh, I'm going.
I,
I'll be at the evening one.
I had signed up for the evening one, and then this week I said, I'm going to the morning one too. I will see you there. I'll text you where I'm sitting.
Okay, yeah, I'll text you where I'm sitting as well. I think I'm in
Okay.
one of the balconies or
Yeah,
something.
me too. I'm upstairs.
I want my selfie with Rachel Maddow. Like
Oh, yeah.
I want my selfie with Rachel Maddow before they lock her up. Well, do you have any final thoughts, Elena? Thank you so
I
much.
do want to thank you for your episode with Laura Sword. Uh, because I've never understood the county committees in this, and I've never been really tied into parties. I've
Yeah.
been tied into candidates more than parties and ideologies more than parties. So I was very upset when they endorsed Cuomo, but I was very excited when the primary happened, they turned around and said, Mandami's, we're going for him. And um, I was glad you gave her time to explain what happened to her there. So I thank you for that episode because it was enlightening.
Well, thank you. Thank you for listening. And it was a really good conversation. And
Yeah.
I have known Laura for about 15 years, and I was really happy that she ascended to be chairwoman of the party. And now it's Charles Fall. And so I wish him luck as the new chairman. He's welcome to come on and
Oh, we
talk
have to
about.
invite him to King's Day.
Yes,
No
absolutely.
King's Day. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going
And
to write some invitations out, I think.
yeah, and he could come on here and explain what his agenda is for the party. He seems to be holding the judicial candidates on the other side to account, which is good.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited about things. I'll quote Jane Fonda. I don't know if you listened to the Bulwark when Jane Fonda was on with Tim Miller.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
and she said, "Well, I'm really hopeful, but I'm scared shitless." That's
And
where I am.
she was on with Bill Crystal.
Yes, she was, well,
And
not with them, but in
and
the
they were
same
like
episode. Yeah.
two different sides of the fence. It's interesting because he started, so it was interesting when Tim asked him about what he thought of her. So that was an interesting dialogue that happened between them. So
Yeah. And I recommend folks listen to it. So, on that note, this is the Left in the Forgotten Borough podcast. I'm Andrew Savage, and thank you so much, Elena Arena, for coming on.
thanks so much for having me. I had a great hour.
We'll see you next week with Nancy.
Okay.